Hi, I'm Natasha Wallace and I'm a leadership coach and author of The Conscious Effect, 50 Lessons for Better Organisational Wellbeing. So I'm going to be talking to you today about conscious leadership, which is an approach to leadership which allows you to achieve good levels of sustained performance without compromising the health and well-being of both yourself as a leader and also of your team. Now, the reason I have ended up doing this and the reason that I develop and coach leaders to be more conscious these days is because I burnt out myself. So having worked in leadership roles for a number of years and also having developed leaders, I ended up in a situation where I compromised my mental health and also my physical health. And what it led me to realise was that no amount of understanding how to drive high performance as a leader and no amount of understanding how to enable a team to deliver results will help you to take care of yourself and to properly take care of your team if you do not put it at the forefront of the way that you lead. So I ended up having been a very resilient and passionate person and leader, getting to a point where I was exhausted, where I struggled to find the energy to do a full day's work, where my confidence was depleted, and where I had actually compromised my mental and physical health. Now, this came as a massive shock to me because I felt like I worked in a way that kept me happy, because most of the time I was happy. But actually, it got to the point where I realised that I had no balance. When I wasn't working, I was thinking about work. I didn't do enough to re-energise myself, both on a day-to-day basis, but also on a week-to-week basis. And too much of my time and attention was absorbed in getting things delivered. It meant I created very, very high standards as a leader, but without acknowledging the fact that people doing things in a balanced way, being role modelled by me, would have on people's long-term performance. I was actually not enabling people as effectively as I could have done, and I certainly wasn't enabling myself. But it wasn't just about the way that I worked. It was also the extent to which I felt that I was doing a role or doing work that mattered enough. What I have realised is that people having a sense of meaning in the work that they do is so critical to the level of energy that they experience, but also the effort that they make and their engagement in their role, that unless people feel like what they do really does make a difference, that it brings some value to the team, to the organisation, then actually it's very, very easy to lose people on the way, to lose people on the journey to success. So how do you enable a team to achieve great results and also fulfill your potential as a leader without constantly having to push and focus purely on the results? Well, the first thing you need to do is you need to have purpose. People need to understand why they're doing the work that they do. We have an inherent need to feel a belonging, to matter. So unless we know that the work that we're doing is actually making a difference beyond us, outside of us, it can be very limiting in terms of us finding the longer term motivation to do our roles and to do well in them. It's not that we don't want to do well, we all want to do well. But in terms of finding the sustained energy and focus to do a good job, we're much, much more likely to be able to do that when there's a clear vision and there's a clear purpose that we can galvanize around, that we can align around. So you as a leader must clearly articulate what the purpose is, what the reason is that the individual or the team are doing that work, both at a organisational level, so what am I in service to here, why are we doing this, but also at an individual level, so on a day-to-day basis, helping people to understand why the work they do matters. And you can recognise this by giving them feedback, by clearly articulating what needs to be delivered and helping them to understand how their role is in service of that. But it's also about making sure you're connecting with people to understand where they get meaning, what matters most to them. When they come to work every day, what do they want to be doing? What are their longer term aspirations? You need to understand that as a leader in order to be able to lead people effectively. And you also need to help people to do the work or to focus on the work that is going to matter the most. So annual appraisals are not a very effective way of doing that. But what is having regular conversations with people, developmental conversations, where you're talking to them about what it is they want to achieve, what they need to achieve in their role. So setting clear performance objectives for people to deliver, but also setting personal objectives, ways in which I can develop as an individual, and doing that together, not telling people what you need them to deliver, but having a conversation that allows you to agree what is going to matter most to the organisation, most to the team, and also most to the individual, so that the work that they do becomes in service of everything around them, but also in service of themselves. That is the way to enable people to really feel like their work matters and that they are achieving meaning in their life. Now, the next thing is you have to create a sense of togetherness. So that means creating an environment where you're encouraging people to work together, where you want collaboration, you want co-creation, you want people to come up with the answers. You're happy for people to challenge you. You're happy for people to go off and work on new things that haven't been done before, recognizing that sometimes they will fail, the projects will fail, the work won't work, it won't happen in the way that people wanted it to. But it's important to allow people to actually do things, to stretch themselves, to try things out, to see if there's other possible opportunities to improve the ways that things could work. And also doing it in partnership with them. So as a leader, you do not need to have all of the answers. What you do need to be able to do is ask questions of people to help them to find some of the answers themselves. Get curious. Explain to people that you do want to see ideas and you want everybody to be able to contribute to making things the best that you can possibly make them. And the more that you accept their ideas and the more that you listen to them and the more that you trust them to get on and do things without being micromanaged or without holding their hands, the more likely they are to come up with new ideas and to take ownership for it. The worst possible thing that you can have as a leader is a situation where learned helplessness creeps in, which is your team looking to you for the answers. Because when that happens, it means you're giving them the answers too often. So if you want people to take ownership and if you want people to take responsibility, you have to create the space that now allows them to do that. Which means also allowing people to express themselves. People need to feel like they can tell the truth and express an honest opinion, and that will lead to a conversation. Not that they will get a defensive response, not that they will be shut down, not that they will be told that it's been tried before and it hasn't worked, but that you will actually engage with them in an open conversation about what is possible and suggest they go away to find out more, find out ways of making it work with others in the team or others in the organisation to see if they can solve it. That is the way that you will build trust, by treating people as adults and giving them the responsibility to take control and take decisions themselves. And doing it in an inclusive way. It's not about selecting the high potential people in your teams who you think might be able to do things. This is about giving everybody the opportunity to perform and to stretch themselves. So the third element of being a conscious leader is being a coach. Because when you're a coach, you go into things with a growth mindset. And that means you are curious about the possibilities. You know you don't have all of the answers, and you believe that the people around you have many of the answers. So through asking more questions and listening for the answers, you enable other people to come up with some of the solutions. And of course, once again, that's what you're trying to do, because only through enabling everybody to work together, building that efficacy, building that mutual respect and trust, do you create high performance in your teams. So growth mindset is about knowing that some people might not be there yet, knowing that some of the ideas might not be there yet. You may not have figured some of the things out, but through focus and through being intentional and through giving people the space to take time and to practice and to come up with new ways of doing things, you can enable them. And also as a coach, you have to get comfortable with not knowing the answers. Sitting down with somebody and asking them what they think, and not feeling as though you always have to be the one that's coming through with the ideas. So being able to listen and being able to sit back and hear what the people around you are saying is so, so important. And it also means these regular developmental conversations through taking a coaching approach, and in those asking people what they want to achieve, where they want to focus their time, whether they feel as though they're doing enough work that energizes them. You can really, really help people to grow and develop, and also respect you as somebody who will allow them the space and the freedom to be at their best and to be themselves. So the fourth aspect of being a conscious leader is about being awake. Now, you can't actually be a good coach unless you are awake, because unless you understand yourself and unless you understand what gets in the way of you being able to ask people questions without jumping in, what your unconscious biases may be that mean that you treat different people in the team in different ways, and without understanding what triggers you to behave in an unhealthy way, whether that be dominating the conversation, working without any rest breaks, getting cross or frustrated with people when they say or do certain things, unless you understand your own patterns of behaviour and how you respond to the people around you, it can be very, very difficult to choose to behave in a way that is going to enable them. Now, some of the way that you do this as a leader is by asking the people around you whether you're giving them what they need to be able to perform in the best way, whether they feel like they can speak up, whether they feel like you understand them. All of that feedback is really, really important for enabling you as a leader. But also, the more time you spend reflecting on the results that you're achieving, the more that you take responsibility for yourself when somebody in the team isn't delivering what you need, or whether the team as a whole isn't getting to where they need to be. The more you own that, and the more you recognize that a lot of it is actually the consequence of the way that you are showing up, the way you are directing them, the clarity you're giving them, the way that you're behaving. Unless you understand that and really take ownership for that, it's very, very difficult to become the most effective type of leader. So there's many ways as a leader to understand yourself more, not least through getting feedback and reflecting, but also through having conversations like this to understand a little bit more around how you can become conscious. And the fifth and final element of conscious leadership is about being resilient as a leader, but about embedding resilience into the team. And resilience isn't about being strong regardless. I mean, it's certainly not about that. It's about understanding that there will be challenges, that things will go wrong, that people will be frustrated, that they will get challenged, that you won't necessarily be able to achieve what you want to, both in the team and in your life. But that when things get in the way, where there are blockers or where there are things that stop you from getting to where that you need to be, you know how to deal with it. Now, if you're in a situation where you're being challenged either on an individual level or you can see that a member of your team are, the important thing is to recognise what is going to help. So to start with, is what you're saying to the team and is what you're thinking enabling you to get closer to where you need to be? Is this thinking helping me? Now, if it is, then great. If you're achieving what you want to, then great. But if it's not, what could help you instead? How do you need to think in order to get you or the people around you to where they need to be? And a lot of the time, that is about putting your own oxygen mask on. That's about taking care of yourself. It's about making sure that you have the energy and the positive mindset in order to be with your people in the right way so that they are excited and energized by you and not depleted or demoralized by you. So building resilience into the team starts with you. It starts with you knowing how to stay in a positive mindset when things are difficult, and also knowing how to encourage other people. But it also means taking care of mental health. Now, in the modern workplace, there is an expectation on leaders to be able to have conversations about mental health, to be able to have that honesty, to recognize that people experience different emotions, handle things in different ways. And you as a leader need to be able to have honest and supportive conversations about the way that people are feeling. Because if you ignore those feelings, you may think that you're escaping them. You may think that you're suppressing them or making them go away. But emotions never do. The positive emotions are the ones that you want to capitalize on in your team. But the less positive ones, you want to get to the bottom of them. You want to understand what's going on, because otherwise they will lead to things like low productivity and disengagement. And longer term as a leader, that is not what you want to achieve. Ultimately, as a leader, your success should be measured by the extent to which your team are happy, healthy and high performing. Now, unless you create an environment where people can speak up if they don't feel well, as well as being able to speak up when they do, you're suppressing things that will come out in other ways. They come out sideways. So you have to learn to empathize. And that can take some time for certain leaders. Recognizing in yourself why it's important to allow people to be able to speak up. Understanding human needs and the importance of us being able to speak about the way that we feel in order to move past it. And also recognizing that sometimes just letting people speak without needing to solve their problems in a safe way where they see that you're supportive and you don't respond badly is all that people need to get to where they need to be. So as a conscious leader, you're building an environment where people can co-create together, where they can speak to each other and trust each other, where people can confide in you, where they see that you actually care, and where you're paying enough attention to yourself and you're consciously aware of yourself enough to know that the way that you behave and the way that you think and the behaviour that people see in you and the way that you make people feel is optimizing performance and allowing people to take care of their own needs, to re-energize, to work in a balanced way, to have the flexibility they need to do the best job, and to ultimately create these adult to adult connections where you're all in it together. You don't need to take the burden of everything on yourself as a leader. And if you try to, you're on a hiding to nothing. It's something you don't need to do. So, pay attention to how you show up as a leader. Recognize your daily behaviors and patterns of behavior and the impact they potentially could be having on both yourself and others. Allow people that freedom and the space to speak up, and enable people to grow through coaching them and asking more questions. And day by day, you will become a more conscious and therefore a happier and healthier leader who will really enable the performance of your team.